Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Heart is a Muscle podcast. Jordin, take us away on today's journey.
Yeah, so today is a pretty vulnerable conversation I tried, and I wouldn't say failed, but I set a new kind of boundary that I haven't set before, and we kind of go over the pros and cons of how I handled it. Yeah, so we call it advanced boundary setting because it wasn't bad, but it could be tweaked a little bit more.
This is part of the reality of being in relationship, everybody. Sometimes you just got to send it. And Jordin did a great job sending it.
I always send it, baby.
So enjoy this one. There's some good lessons, and stick to the end because there's some good information there too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy. Hooray.
Hello.
All right. We finally made it here to
God
this.
damn. Took a computer restart.
Yeah, there's a couple of technical issues. I mean, we are out in the middle of the woods.
That's
so
right.
the Wi-Fi is a little tough. Yeah, we found this nice forest meadow and we were like, you know what? Let's just sit down and do a podcast, right, Jordin?
That's exactly right. Yeah, if you are listening to us, we are recording these on video now, and we decided it'd be fun to play around with our Zoom background. So
we're actually in the forest. Don't listen to
her. This is not a green screen.
Can you not hear the birds?
Tweet, tweet, tweet,
tweet. But it's time to get down to what we're here for. This is the Heart is a Muscle podcast. Hooray!
Recording another one, baby.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into today's topic, which is it's an interesting topic because it's a vital thing for not only your personal goodness, but it's also good in relationship, because that's what we're all about here. And what is that thing, Jordin?
Advanced boundary setting.
This is not your grandma's boundary setting.
No, it's not your grandma's boundaries.
Yeah, because grandma was bad at setting boundaries.
Grandma had no boundaries.
Yeah.
Grandma was passive aggressive.
All right. Well, where would you like to start with advanced boundary settings?
Okay, so there's a couple things. So one of them is we could just start with our vulnerable experience of that just this morning and go from there. How about?
All right. Do you want to describe our vulnerable experience this morning?
Okay, well, to do that, I will have to start with last night. So last night we were in the hot tub and Joseph blew my mind with like some really profound truths about me and like what he's seeing.
That hot tub magic.
And the hot tub is magic. Yeah. And so it was like one of those where he was speaking right to a blind spot. So it took like my parts had to like keep thinking about it and letting it like soak in so I can actually like really realize it. Anyway, but then I woke up this morning with some parts of me that were kind of angry and annoyed at one of the things that he said. And it wasn't even just that. It wasn't even like you said. Yeah, I guess it was what you said and how you said it. But it was just one of them. And I guess I could just say what the details are. There's nothing to hide. Yeah. So
nothing to hide here in the forest.
Nothing to hide here. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there was something to hide. I feel like that ship has sailed a long time ago with the shit that I've shared on this podcast.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you said, or you had just kind of, you didn't like say it outright, but kind of had mentioned or kind of like made a reference that my parts are being bummers. In terms of like, yeah, so I've really been struggling with like finding my alignment and like, especially me as an Enneagram type 3, but also just given what I've gone through, like finding my alignment and knowing my truth is something that's really important for my parts, but it's also something that I can just spin my wheels trying to find. So that was a lot of like what the blind spot you were speaking to is like, sometimes I will be so focused on being not fake that I kind of lose the true essence of vulnerability, which is just, or of authenticity, which is just showing up like vulnerably as I am right now. You know, whether that is trying to be somebody or not. So, but it was kind of mentioned that my struggle with finding my authenticity, or, you know, kind of getting lost in that rabbit hole inside of myself, was a bummer, and like silly. And so in the moment, it didn't really hit me that hard, because I understood kind of what you were saying. But also like I felt this familiar feeling of like more shame for feeling ashamed hearing that, like more shame for having shame around who I am, or my authenticity, or like my power, or how I show up.
Yeah, if there's one thing that's very shameful, it's being ashamed.
Yeah.
If you
That's right.
you don't know that's kind of a core tenet of what we do here.
Yep.
That's the greatness of shame. It's like
the greatness of shame. That could be a whole episode.
What's that Greek dessert spanakopita, where it's like all those delicious layers of yumminess?
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's like got phyllo dough and a bunch of stuff. That's what shame's like.
Isn't that kind of like tiramisu?
A little bit. Tiramisu has
Oh no,
layers
baklava.
and
That's
baklava. That's
what
what we're talking about.
Oh, is that what you're talking
That's
about?
what I'm trying to talk about too.
I always get those words mixed up, like in my head.
What was I even talking
Baklava.
about? The first one?
Shame is in layers or something?
Yeah, but what was the first dish that I referenced? Spanakopita. Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
an ice
I've never
cream flavor.
No, isn't that is it? I thought that
Yeah,
was
that's
Spinelli or something, or what's the ice cream?
Spanakopita. I think that's the
Spanakopita. No way. I've never heard that before.
I'm pretty sure that's what like pistachio ice cream's called.
Spanakopita?
Uh-huh.
Twist your nipples on for that one. Naughty boy.
Well, not to distract us.
Anyway, back to the greatness of shame.
Yeah. Okay, so
what were you saying about the shame and baklava?
that it has like layers.
Oh yeah, and it's all sticky like baklava.
It is
too.
sticky. Sweet.
Yeah.
And you take one bite and you're like, oh, I'm gonna eat this whole thing, and then you're like, I can't eat it all. It's too rich. All right.
All right. Yeah. So I like when I heard that, I did kind of feel shame, and like I could have spiraled into the story of like, oh man, he's gonna reject me, and he's judging me because I haven't figured all of this out yet. Because I'm a bummer and he's a 7 type Enneagram 7, and 7s
not allowed.
Fucking hate bummers. No bummers allowed for Enneagram 7s.
Which is funny. I wasn't even talking about myself.
I know you were talking about another 7 in our life. And so there was a part of me this morning that woke up just like angry and like kind of grumpy about it, because at first I was just feeling the shame, and then I was like fuck this, like I don't do this anymore. I don't like just ruminate in this. And so my anger kind of came out, and so I was like, man, okay, yeah, what is this about? Like, what is actually, you know, what's happening? And so I was tuning into myself, and I could sense that it's like, oh yeah, there was these parts that just wanted to feel bad, or that felt shame about that, about being a bummer and stuff. And I could have just like made you super wrong for that, or just like gone down that rabbit hole. I know I have done that so many times in the past. But actually the conclusion that me and my parts came to is I actually felt really proud of this part, like, is that you know, actually just the request that we have is just that you don't use the term bummer. Like, you just don't refer to me, like, even if you think that to yourself, just don't use that term like to me to my face, or like out loud to me, because nothing about that is like helpful for me and my parts. Yeah. And I kind of equated it to like when somebody calls you a victim or like you're being a victim, how your parts fucking rage against that, because it just like makes you feel like more of a victim, even kind of. It just like perpetuates whatever you're feeling.
You know, it's really like baklava is victimhood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's delicious.
And man, does it have layers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was I thought that was it was a very apt analogy. But then you were talking about victimhood, so my parts were like, what the fuck? Don't come at me with that.
Even just mentioning it. Yeah. Should have given you a trigger warning.
Yeah, you should have. I mean, that I feel like when I walked in the door, I should have gotten a trigger warning. That would have actually been like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I know, because I was meditating, and usually I say hi when I meditate, but I was like, I just need to finish this meditation.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to tell my perspective on all
okay.
this, so don't worry, everybody. You're going to get the real story.
Oh.
Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding.
I'm glad you're well enough to laugh about it now. And it isn't even that big of a deal. So anyway, yeah, I was meditating, getting clear on this shit. But I was like, all right, I am fuming, and I know I need to like set this boundary, and I need to be explicit about this. But also, like, you were in the shower and that kind of stuff. And so it's like my parts, whenever we're clear about like, okay, there's something we need to express, it's a hard conversation. It's hard, like, we don't do well at like pretending like we're not feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just kind of like low-key trying to wait until I don't know, there was like a time for us to actually like connect. And also I kind of wanted to get my thoughts together, so I went and then I journaled while you were finishing up in the bedroom, making the bed and stuff. He makes a bed almost every morning, you guys. It's really
almost
awesome.
every morning.
Well, every morning.
That's not true. I don't make it on the weekends every time.
Yeah.
Gonna hold myself accountable there.
Yeah.
Comes that baklava again.
He crushes it. Oh man. Accountability is not like baklava. It's not sweet. Anyways, and so I journaled, and man, I don't know, I just gotta pat myself on the back that I am getting fucking good at navigating my triggers and communicating it in a way that is closer to like what's actually true and real, and not just like going down the rabbit hole of my own projections or like the stories my shame wants to tell about things.
That's because we listen to our own podcast, everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not a lie.
I know, yeah, we do. So sometimes, like right after we record it, we play it.
We're just like, oh man, this is great advice.
Wow, so great. Yeah.
We should remember this.
We should write this down. So I got really clear in my journal, and it wasn't, usually I have to like really ramble for a while in my journal before I get clear. Like I have to get everything out. Whoops. But this time I didn't. It was just fucking clear. I was like, God damn, I'm getting good at this.
Getting good.
Yeah. So then you came into the kitchen in the morning and
unawares
said hey. And you, I think, were immediately probably like, what's wrong or something.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I have something to express. As I was like making you breakfast.
Yeah, so I couldn't be that mad.
Yeah, because I said, like, I remember your parts requesting like, tell me as soon as you know. Yeah, so I just did. That there was something I needed to express.
Yeah, no, it was a great exercise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
like,
here it comes.
Maneuvers.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, finish up your end of the story.
Are you sure? Do you want to?
No, I'll chime in later.
You just want the last word, don't you? Challenge accepted.
Maybe I do, I guess.
Yeah, no,
I'll let you have the last word.
Okay, it's gonna be a fart sound.
Then it will be the correct last word.
Yeah. Maybe we can do a fart sound in harmony, and that's how we can end all of our arguments.
You know, not to distract here again, but we actually went to someone who had a real studio for a podcast, and they had like the little leaderboard with the, you know, audience laugh and
cheering.
clapping and cheering.
And the drum.
Yeah. And there wasn't a fart sound.
I know.
And I was amused and very proud of you that you asked, like, why isn't there a fart sound on this?
That just seems like soundboard 101 should be a staple.
Yeah, there needs to be like a donkey sound. There needs to be a fart sound. There needs to be the slide whistle.
And there needs to be a cat call.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought cat calls were illegal now.
Not on soundboards.
Okay, cool. Back on topic. You still have a few words left on this experience that
yeah.
So let's go through that.
So let me try to remember. Well, basically I expressed it pretty clearly, I thought. I was
just very directly.
Yeah, very, very directly. I think I basically just said, yeah, like, yeah, it kind of hurt my feelings when I heard you referencing what I'm going through as a bummer or like a silliness, and that like, first of all, just using that term bummer is like what happens to you, like what happens to me when I hear that I'm a bummer is probably something similar that happens to you when somebody calls you a victim. And it just doesn't help anything. And so I need to set the boundary around, like, don't use that word in reference to me or my parts. And also that just standing up for my parts a little bit. There's a part that wanted to stand up for my other parts about, like, you know, given everything that I've gone through, even regardless of being an Enneagram 3 or not, even regardless of that being my like survival strategy, given like the straight up brainwashing and gaslighting that my parts have been through, it makes a lot of sense why they can get so hung up on like knowing what is my truth and what isn't, and why that's so important to them. And like, it makes so much sense. And it doesn't mean that it's you know, someplace that I'm going to get stuck in, but it's just a part of my process to get hung up on this stuff. Like, everybody has their thing that they get hung up on, and this is mine. And so just kind of standing up for my parts that like they are trying their best, and like I would love to request some more what did I say, like request some more compassion from your parts or something, to be able to, you know, see my parts as like the, you know, the whole story that they've been through, and that they're just here trying their best. They're not trying to be a bummer. They're not trying to be silly, like, because to them it matters so much. Did I say anything else?
I don't think you did.
Oh yeah, I also threw in the thing of like, because I think you said like, you know, with healthy sevens, no bummers are allowed or something. And I had a part that was like, no, actually that's unhealthy sevens. I had a part that I really wanted to have the last word on that one. Yeah. So that's my story. Should I say like kind of the advanced part of this boundary setting, or do you want to tell your side of the story first?
No, let's get into the advanced settings.
Okay, the advanced settings. So
click the tab for advanced settings for Jordin James.
Yeah. So while I do think that I did a really good job being direct about my boundaries, I did a really good job of having a clear request and not necessarily like making you wrong for anything that you said, but just kind of speaking from a place of like what me and my parts need, and requesting that. So it was like there was so much, like all of the boundary 101 stuff I did like pretty well. I'm like, oh shit, okay, I'm getting pretty good at this. But when you left, like I was kind of when you left for work, I was reflecting on it, and I was like, oh god damn it, like I did it again, where I kind of closed off my heart to you. And I did it and I spoke very directly and stuff, but it wasn't like very intimately that I held that conversation with you. Because it was being expressed from a part of me that was like prepared for, or it was just still like kind of angry, still a little bit like amped up. And while it was a lot better than how I have expressed what I need and what's happening inside of me in those hard moments in the past, it was still withdrawn from you. And I was just thinking about how when I withdraw from you, like you have told me that when I withdraw from you, it's one of the most painful things that you experience in our relationship. And like you can withstand almost anything except me withdrawing. And so I was like, oh yeah, okay. So I'm glad that I communicated the way that I did, but I want to keep getting better and better at being able to like communicate those boundaries and communicate what I need, and communicate if something has like hurt my feelings, but in a way that lets your parts know that I still love them, that I still see them, that I still like want them, that we are still in this together. Yeah, where I can kind of help my parts feel like I've got them, in the way that I am communicating and advocating for their needs, but also like help your parts still feel like they're included in my heart. Yeah, or that I'm also like giving your parts the benefit of the doubt as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I mean by advanced boundary setting, is being able to set the boundaries that our parts need with an open heart, with within intimacy, where we don't actually have to step outside of intimacy to set a boundary.
Yeah, because I'm reminded of a thing that we just were re-exposed to. We re-listened to the book
Nonviolent
communication, and there was a part in there where it's, well, how do you get people to respect your boundaries and all this kind of stuff? And part of it was like the difference between a request and a demand, and how like a demand, kind of takes away the sovereignty of the person, of like, they must do this thing, otherwise consequences, and how that disconnects you from each other, versus like a true honest request is something that should be expressed vulnerably, that helps connect you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where boundary setting can get kind of tricky, where you need to click that advance button, because if you're reciting a list of demands that your partner must do, otherwise, that does not breed connection.
Mm-hmm.
That really breeds a lot of disconnection and potentially resentment, or like just disregard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um and I don't know if it's really more of an effect from like a masculine feminine perspective, or a feminine to masculine perspective, but just from my instincts, like, men hate demands. They hate it from other men, they hate it from their significant others. And the unfortunate thing is, a lot of female to male like demands often get kind of like turned on their head, and can get toxic. Of, oh, you're gonna make a demand on me, well, I'm just gonna fucking ignore it because you're a stupid woman. And then that's where it leads to.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful with setting demands instead of boundaries, because there is a difference.
Yeah. Maybe you can share a little bit more about that.
Well,
Well,
let's go into the advanced settings here real quick. And
yeah.
because a boundary, it has the same strength behind it of, this is not really a negotiable thing, but not so much a I will disconnect from you because like that way I can make sure I get my request met.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times a boundary should be something that is made in, I don't know, kind of communion to each other, where it's something that you're expressing a deep need that must be met for your own satisfaction, that also has to come, like you were just saying, from a point of like empathy and compassion for why this person is not being able to meet your need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, truth be told, I didn't think you were really like demanding anything. And I don't think you didn't come in like in a huff and like wag your finger in my face and be like, listen up, bitch.
Batch.
My part's got something to say to you, bitch.
Maybe I should talk like that when I'm setting boundaries. So.
That would be at least pretty funny. I don't know if I could take you seriously. I'd be like, that's great, Jordin.
Yeah. Stop being silly.
Yeah, stop being so silly.
I'm glad you're not a bummer anymore.
Yeah. You were being such a bummer earlier. Now I'm glad you're back. Yeah. So what do you think on the perspective of boundaries versus demands? Because I think this can be a real confusing thing, because I think in the short term, it seems like the outcome is the same of a demand versus a boundary. But really, from an energetic standpoint, a demand is a show of force that has very little staying power and will likely just breed other forceful actions. And you will need to continue to demand this, because the energy of force is very weak and it does not last. Versus a boundary is something that really comes from a true, powerful expression of your unmet needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that shit has staying power
Mm-hmm.
because it's power. So,
Boom. Mm-hmm.
but what's your perspective on it there, Jordin James?
Yeah. I really like what you said. I especially really like what you just said. That's some good shit. I will probably use that in my coaching.
Giving it away for free, everybody.
Yep. I don't know if I want to say this, but somebody says like, give them your best shit for free and they'll pay you to give it to them again. I was like, you know what? I like that. I love just like, being super generous.
Mm-hmm.
I think yeah, that's important to me. So anyways, boundaries versus demands. Yeah. So like let's see what I want to say, because it's like here's how I'm imagining it in my head. You have the boundary that you need to set. And so it's like you can communicate it like it's a demand, or you can communicate that boundary with the intention of connecting over it. Like letting your partner see the vulnerability inside of you that's behind the boundary. And yeah, so it's like you can communicate it in terms of a demand, which is like closed heart usually, and like I need this or else, or like because you said this, I'm going to withdraw my love from you and be more stoic and like communicate the demand that I need you to meet now for you to be back on the inside again.
Yeah, I'm going to dehumanize you so that I can treat you as a villain that must like meet this requirement.
Yes. Yeah. And while I don't think I was like totally in that energy, I was less in that energy than I ever have been in terms of communicating a boundary. Like I was still like seeing you as separate. I was still like afraid of you, I think is a big thing. Like that's why my parts like come on so strong, is I was still seeing you as like something that can hurt me.
Okay.
Yeah. And instead of seeing you as like Joseph, my partner, who I want to see me and who I want to show your effect on me, like good and bad, and who I want to like feel like a partner with. Yeah, maybe that's the thing, is like you can communicate your boundaries as a demand or as something that will strengthen the partnership.
Yeah, you can make a demand and have a high chance of being ignored, because a demand really does not connect with the person being demanded of a lot of the times.
Yeah. Yeah. Or in a way where I can kind of like keep my eyes on the prize here of like what I ultimately want with you more than anything is just to deepen our partnership and our connection. And so me sharing what's alive in me, even if it's hurt feelings, like how can I share that in my requests of what my parts need in a way where I still see us as on the same side.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so that's like the boundaries, that's the advanced boundary setting.
Yeah, when you go and you move that little toggle thing from connection to separation, and then you move that little motherfucker from compassion to dehumanization, that's when you're getting from demand, or you're getting from boundary to demand. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a second. That's when we need the like,
yeah.
Beep, 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 beep.
Oh yeah, that's got to be on the soundboard too.
Yeah. So keep all those settings over in boundary setting, folks. Yeah, don't adjust your settings.
Well,
I mean, yeah, adjust your settings if they're wrong, but
yeah, but it this is advanced fucking stuff,
yeah,
because
this is
like
7th level like black belt dojo stuff.
Yeah, it requires so much trust from your own parts, to be able to show up kind of vulnerably.
And the empowering thing about a boundary too is that if it does come from a true compassionate place, if that boundary is not met, then like you have to remain in your power to ensure that you can have that met. And sometimes that is, if a partner will not respect that boundary, it's having a harsher boundary or a more inclusive boundary, or sometimes that boundary is a separation.
Can you give some examples?
So like, yeah, say if you made this request and I was like, that's great, whatever, quit being a bummer. You're bumming me out here with your bullshit.
With your boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries are such a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, if you do this right with setting a boundary that connects the two of you, it's more likely to actually connect with the other person, because that's the thing that makes a boundary work, is that it's not a one-way like street, that it is a two-way, it is a conversation and not a like lecture. And
dragged.
Yeah,
I got lectury this morning.
There was, yeah.
But it was like a part of me needed to be heard, god damn it.
And sometimes you got to get up on that little soapbox. But remember to come back down off that soapbox and like bring back the intent that you're setting a boundary not because you want to like push yourself away from this person, but that you want to be able to connect closer with them by having this need met.
Yeah, and that's so counterintuitive for our parts, because it's like when we set a boundary because a vulnerable part of us has been touched in a way that is not helpful for us. And so when our vulnerable parts get poked like that, our anger comes out, like our defenses come up, and just it's a natural thing for our parts to want to like push you away.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be a counter, like, and that's how we communicate our boundaries, you know, like when we're not in the advanced setting usually. And sometimes that's like how we have to start. We have to just start by like setting whatever boundaries we can before we like learn.
Yeah. Elementary boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how I had to start. And I have been there for the longest time. It's only now I'm realizing like, oh, I can do this a little bit differently. So it's different. So it's like, okay, when that part wants to push away, in a relationship where it would meet my needs even deeper if I could pull you in and you could really see like the impact that has happened on this vulnerable part. Like, so like to let you into the very place that my feelings were hurt by you, according to my parts, you know, like you said something that was like kind of triggered these feelings to be hurt. Instead of just like trying to push you away from that and saying like, all right, until you can like be a safe place for these parts, like I'm not gonna love you, basically, or I'm not gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, like we're not gonna be okay. To actually open my heart even wider and say, this is how I felt, and like this is the request that my parts need. Like, how does that land with you? Like, does that make sense to you?
Because the other thing that's a non-starter with a demand is a codependency. If you do not do this thing, then I will not be okay.
Ooh.
Hell yeah.
Dragged.
Yeah. What are you getting dragged for, huh?
Just a codependent cutie over here.
Codependent cuties.
Yeah.
That's a new group that Jordan's starting, the Codependent Cuties. The dance group. And if one of them gets upset, then they're all upset.
They're all, yep.
It's all fucking over.
Yeah, it's a hot mess. That's just how we like it.
Yeah. Versus when you can set a boundary, if that boundary is not met, you do not like lose and give away your power. You become even more empowered to ensure that that boundary gets met. And that's where I was kind of clumsily getting to.
Yeah. So like, what could I have done differently this morning?
Well, first off, you could have not been a bummer.
You could have not been a bummer about the whole thing,
and it never would have been an issue. Okay, last joke about that.
Feelings are the problem.
Yeah. I don't want to be, a hypocrite here. So that's the last joke. I mean, that's funny, right?
It's funny.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
So it's kind of hard to tell because there's no hindsight 2020 here of like, oh yeah, let's look at the rule book here and see where you fucked up. Because my perspective, I also, one of the things you could have done a little bit more is before you just like jump into your thing of here's my new boundary. Get ready for it. Here it comes.
Prepare to be triggered.
Prepare to like get talking to. Maybe connect with me a little bit and see what was alive in me.
Oh yeah, like when you said it.
Well, no, like this morning
when
I come kind of walking into the kitchen and like then it was just like, hey, how's it going? Good morning. And it's like my parts have something they need to say.
I thought I was being so courageous.
You were being very courageous.
But I get it.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of one of those things that helps establish hey, I'm going to invite you into a conversation that's very important to me.
Yeah.
And I want you to pay attention.
Yeah.
Versus hear ye, here is your subpoena.
Here's the decree.
Here's your subpoena to come to court real quick. So fucking get. Which this is a big dramatization. But I was in a little bit of a sad mood this morning too, because I'm going through a funky phase and am trying to reestablish some of my habits and stuff that really like energize me. And so I was a little bit not in my own best mood this morning. And so it was just like, as much as I was trying to stay in communion with you and listen to what boundaries you were trying to express and like really absorb this and make this a meaningful thing, there were a lot of my parts that were just like, fuck this. Like, I don't need this right now. And I should just fucking, shut this down right. There were definitely parts of me that were not in the mood to hear this. And there were other parts that were like, well, we were kind of getting over this bad mood. Now we're right back in it. So fucking thanks. And that's the thing, that's the other advanced setting of boundary setting, is receiving someone's boundaries. Because like I said, it cannot be a one-way street.
Yeah.
It has to be a two-way street. So being able to graciously receive someone's boundary and connect with why this is such an important thing is also a very advanced setting, because usually a boundary is in a way a criticism of something that you're doing, that this is a request to change or evolve or do something different. And as much as we want to deny it, there's always going to be parts in you that are like, we're being criticized. Well, I don't feel it. Let me tell you what I don't feel like now. Enough, happy, meaningful, connected, all this kind of bullshit. We all got those parts.
Yeah.
And so my kind of system had to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to be real happy about this. I'm going to do my best to listen to what's going on, not like create some funky ass story or like just start judging you, and kind of just absorb what I can and then let that sink in and then move on with my day. And kind of the best way I could do that was to try and acknowledge what you said and thank you for expressing it. I think I did that, didn't I?
Yes.
And then kind of get along with my own self. And really just kind of give myself space for the rest of my parts to have some time to kind of bitch and moan. And then when they all got tired, be like, okay, well, now let's move on with the day.
Yeah. What was it like for your parts to get my text saying explicitly that I want to get better at setting boundaries with a more open heart, or whatever I said?
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, it's always nice. This is another advanced thing. Once like a boundary is set and received and like there's kind of mutual agreement, it is always nice to like touch base again on it in like a more, hey, let's reconnect on this in a loving way. Because it is a bit of an affront to have a boundary set, because as much as it is something that you can connect on, like it is the straw that stirs the drink a little bit.
Yeah, especially when it's communicated like a demand, or like in that energy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing also. You like, both parties need to have compassion for not only themselves but for each other, because like we said, this is like, ninth level dojo shit, and you're probably going to fuck it up a little bit.
Yeah.
On both ends.
Like, I'm also imagining it as kind of like a spectrum too, as a it's not like a black or white, like you set the boundary right or you didn't set it right.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I think I will always be moving toward being able to communicate what's alive in me from a place that like breeds more connection, or in a way that breeds more connection than separation.
And this is, I'd like to get your opinion on this. Part of the true power of setting a boundary is the act of doing it. And a lot of the times, once you kind of set that boundary, then you can have some perspective, and it is a little bit less like because you've expressed the unmet need, and now that that's on the table, it becomes less of a like life or death daunting
Yes.
like thing. It kind of loosens it up a little bit.
Yeah, because the parts of me that want to set a boundary can come across so strong and so urgently because they mistrust my parts who have not who have noticed this and then have not said anything because they didn't want to stir the, they didn't want to stir the drink. They didn't want to like shake the boat, rock the boat, shake the boat, shake the boat, shake the baby.
Shaking the boat. Shaking the boat. Earthquake. The Enterprise is getting hit by Vulcans. I don't know.
I'm gonna knock on wood on the wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's something like within me is like it shows more of the trust that I'm still building with my parts rather than the trust that I have in you too.
Say that again.
Yeah, so the part of me who wants to set boundaries like so urgently and directly and like maybe as more of a demand, or just I guess just like it to your point of like sometimes your partners need you to set the fucking boundary. And then once they see that you did that, then they can kind of relax a little bit and start to hold the conversation in a different way. Like that's kind of what it felt like for me this morning, is my parts it was mistrustful of the other parts of me who have not set a boundary, who have not chosen to like advocate for my needs, who have chosen to stay quiet about my needs or what I'm feeling because of being afraid that we'll lose connection even. And so I had the parts of me that wanted to set the boundary were like, no, we're fucking doing this, like we need to do this right now because like if we let this slide, these other parts are going to take over and you'll never say anything. It can feel so high stakes at first. And so, yeah, then after I set the boundary, I was able to see it a lot more clearly about, oh, okay, yeah, actually, I wish I would have held the conversation a little bit differently.
And just for some fun perspective on this too, and kind of also the importance of when you're setting a boundary, like give it a little bit of preamble so it's not such a caught unawares thing. In the morning, I go work out, do my thing. Usually have some sauna to relax, do some meditation and all that kind of stuff, and kind of walked home. And then usually when I walk in the door, you usually say hello or whatever, this is where I'm at. And then I walk in the door and I'm like, silence. No, you must be probably still asleep. And so I kind of walk back there and I was like, oh no, looks like, I bet you're meditating. And so I kind of peeked my head around the corner to look in there, and you didn't say anything. And so I was like, ooh, she must be really in it. I'm just going to leave her be. She must be really having a great meditation right now. Literally what I thought, because I was like, ooh, I don't want to disturb her if she's not going to say hello, or maybe she's got her headphones in or something. So the story my parts were telling about how
I was just blissful.
Yeah, how the events of the morning were going were wrong. And so, yeah, I go and jump in the shower, I'm working through my own bullshit in the morning too. And then I'm like, oh, we'll go, she's up and about now. We'll go greet her and give her a hug, and that'll be really nice. I'm looking forward to do that.
My parts have something to express.
Yeah. And as soon as I gave you a hug, I was just like, I'm hugging a very stiff piece of wood right now. Something's not right. And away it went.
Yeah. So one request that I'm hearing is to connect with you, like to genuinely connect with you a little bit before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes with the severity of it, because this was also, so let me give a little bit of perspective of the actual like offending event too, because we were in the hot tub talking about I was actually trying to like give your coach, who's the other 7 in our life, trying to give her some praise of like, oh yeah, this is like some of the things that she'll really help you out with because
She doesn't put up with you being a bummer.
well, I don't know if I specifically said it like that, but I was like, she's a 7, so yeah, I guess I did say it like that. And yeah, she's not gonna put up with like your
With
bummer
your
parts and
silliness.
your silliness and all this kind of stuff. Not really being super what I want to say here, like serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was I was in the hot
My parts took it very
yeah, I know.
seriously.
I was in the grace of the hot tub and I was spitting hot fire and I was just, that's sometimes what happens when you're speaking the truth. You get a little carried away. Um, but yeah, and the other thing too is you were just sitting over in the corner just like eating it up and I was like, I can't do wrong now. She's just loving is what I'm saying. So I
I
was like,
was eating it up.
yeah, I was like, okay, no harm, no foul.
You
No
were
big
saying
deal.
a lot of good shit.
And so the event was like out of my mind. And this is something that is a very frustrating thing for me of I'll like offhandedly say something and be like, yep, no big deal. Like I didn't think that was that offensive or even like offensive at all for any reason whatsoever. And then I'll forget about it because I have the memory of a fishbowl of a goldfish. No, I think I have the memory of a fishbowl.
Fishbowl.
That's probably more accurate. And then somebody will bring it up and be like, when you said this thing exactly like this, I didn't like it. And then I'll be like, what did I say? Like, I don't think I said it like that, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. So I guess I guess I got to give in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that's just a tangent on me and my bullshit. But
I'm sure a lot of masculine creatures can relate to that.
you know what? I think that's very true because one of the aspects of left-brainedness is that it is always crunching data, and a lot of the times it's got to dump unimportant data.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the bullshit we say and do that we don't think is really important, that goes in the dump file.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it gets brought up later, we have to be like, oh fuck, where's that old dump file? I gotta look this up. What actually happened?
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of grace there goes a
Mm-hmm.
long ways.
Mm-hmm.
And this may be just my perspective, or this may be a thing, but when you come at a man and saying like you said specifically this thing without like an actual proof of it, we fucking hate that.
Yeah, what do you hate about it?
Because without proof, and if we don't remember or if we don't have like something in front of us, it's just like uh it's like a real challenge, and especially when it's in a relationship, that's a frustrating thing because it's like, okay, well, I have nothing to challenge you back with besides just saying you're wrong or like just trying to shut you down.
So how are we supposed to communicate that instead?
Um, so this goes back to nonviolent communication type of thing of not so much bringing it outside of this thing that you did was wrong and you're wrong because of it. It's more of last night when we were talking, this is what I experienced.
Yeah. This is what I heard.
This is what I heard. This is what I experienced. Because from that perspective, like you can empathize, like that's not so much of you coming to attack me for something that like you're claiming I did. Even if I did it, when you come at it from more of an introspective of like that conversation we had made, this is what I heard and this is what I felt, then it's like, oh, well, that's not what I intended. And then you can empathize, be like, well, I'm unhappy or sad or whatever that's what you heard, because let me correct that then. Because when it's just an accusation of like you said this thing, there's nothing to do but fight that.
Yeah.
Because you're having a forceful encounter. Really, when it's a something that you heard or you experienced, then it's like, okay, well, let me correct that then. Like that is an opportunity for me.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I did that part okay.
Yeah. I think you did too.
Yeah, I tried to communicate it in a way of like, this is what I heard, or this is what, like, when I heard that, my parts felt like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's such a natural reaction for especially for men to be like, I didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, I can't speak for everybody because it's just like, I don't remember saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was something I said like I didn't give a shit about. And so I'm stalling for time looking in the trash bin and be like, did I say that?
Yeah, well, and I think that's also just part of the good work that the Lord's work you got to do within yourself to, when you set boundaries, is get really clear about what was actually said and what's the story you're telling about what was said.
Mm-hmm.
What's the meaning you're making about what was said.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it actually really matters in terms of like true connection what was actually said. It matters like what you're wanting to be seen in is what you heard and how that affected you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's less about arguing about the facts of what happened.
Yeah,
But it's
because
more just about sharing what's alive in you.
that can get into a real petty thing of like, oh, okay, now well, I can't say this, and
Yeah,
then
and
you start like
it's
to
not actually gonna,
compartmentalize it into this like, tit for tat game.
yeah, it's not gonna get your needs met anyway.
Right.
Talking about it like that.
And that right there really throws a wrench in polarity because men are going to try and compartmentalize it and like put it into what do I want to say here, like a factual type of thing that has like uh hard point connections, and then like the feminine will be like, no, that this is not what I want, this is just making this more confusing, like they
You're
won't
not
be able, you're
listening.
not, yeah, it'll just like it takes the magnetic force of polarity and just like flips it on its end, and now you're
Pointing away from each other.
just pointing away at each other, screaming in either direction.
Mhm.
So don't do that.
Nobody's needs getting met that way.
Yeah, nobody's needs
Yeah.
getting met. That is the worst at that's when boundary setting becomes boundary boundary breaking. It's a one-way ticket to get your boundaries not met.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So great time with boundaries. They're very important, but they do take some practice because they're tough.
And like, let's take the perfectionism out of, like, yeah, we're talking about the advanced settings and stuff, but like, let's take the perfectionism around off of setting boundaries. Like, let's just take perfectionism away in general. But like, you're not going to do this perfectly the first time or the second time or the third time. Like, all you can do is do your very best to work with the parts that you've got and the trust that you've built with them or that you haven't built with them, and the journey that you're on to build trust with your parts, with your own partner. Like, so to do your best to be able to, first of all, just like get clear on what it is you need, like that's already such a huge step.
Yep.
And then doing your best to communicate that in a way that actually invites your partner into more connection than separation with you. And then being prepared to repair any sort of rupture that happens on the other side of that. Like,
that's a great way of putting it.
That's why I want to take the perfectionism out of it, because like it doesn't actually need to happen perfectly, because it just needs to happen best you can, and to have a willingness from both sides to repair any rupture about like how it went down. So that like that's how you build trust to keep your heart open more next time.
Absolutely. Wow, way to wrap that up with a pretty bow on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Hell yeah.
That's what I do.
That was perfect. All right, any other little gems of perfection, or should we shut this one down? We got to get out of here before it gets dark anyways. The forest it's getting cold out here.
It is getting chilly.
Yeah.
No, I feel complete with this one.
I feel complete as well. Great job setting a boundary this morning, and there are a lot of my parts that just want to make fun of it because it's fun, but I will do my best.
Well, it's okay. You can make fun of it. I also wanted to say something a part just popped in, like, you can make fun of it, just don't ever fucking call me a bummer again. That's what my part said.
Yeah.
But anyways, I also wanted to say, especially given more of like what I understand of what was happening inside of you this morning too, like, god damn, you just handle this shit so well. Like, you're so good at loving me.
Well, fucking A.
Yeah.
Good job, me.
Yeah.
Now I get a pat on the back.
Yeah. Yeah, truly.
Cool.
Like, I felt like really heard and listened to, and like you understood.
Well, good. I'm glad that's your experience you had. I was doing my best to make that happen.
Yeah, you nailed it.
All right. Well, I'm feeling great, everybody. So I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
Yep.
Okay, everybody, do your best. Listen to this one over again because there's some really good shit in here. I even surprised myself with the crazy shit that came out of my mouth. But I guess that's just how we do it here at the Heart is a Muscle podcast.
Yep. We just have crazy shit coming out of our mouth.
Yep. And if we had a soundboard, that's when we'd be hitting all of the buttons right now.
We also need like a bong sound, like
got to give the people what they want, right?
Right? Exactly.
All right, everybody.
Anyways.
We will see you all and talk to you all next time.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for enjoying this episode of the Heart is a Muscle podcast. We really enjoy creating this content for you, and we want to share some more resources so you can get even more content. So take it away, Jordin.
That's right. If you want to follow either one of us on socials, if you want to work with either one of us, if you want access to our YouTube channel, if you want to buy our book, links to all that stuff is on our Patreon. So that is patreon.com/theheartisamuscle. Now, you don't have to join Patreon to get access to those links.
But you probably should. The more that you support us and support this channel, the more that we can create this awesome content to help support you, because that's really why we do this. We want to make your guys' lives better, and your support really matters.
Yeah. And what you'll get when you join Patreon is a shout out in our next episode. And you will also get access to listener requests, where you will get to request what you want us to talk about in future episodes.
So from the Heart is a Muscle podcast to you guys, thank you so much for all the support, all the feedback. We really, really enjoy it. And we'll talk to you all later.
Truly love you guys so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.